number of participants, it really shows that there's a great interest in terms of the work that we are doing in Parliament. I want to pass my greetings to the honorable members to have been able to honor the meeting on Friday. The Executive Authority of Parliament, the Speaker of Parliament, and the National Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the Deputy Minister and the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, the Deputy Minister in SAPS. I don't know who's leading the other in terms of the political leadership. We will recognize all members. I see that Heritage, who is leading Heritage, the CEO, Advocate Malchas, you're also welcome. And all management, the colleagues, the support staff, the media, thank you very much for showing interest in what we are doing and supporting us. Thank you very much. You are all welcome. And honorable members, you are advised to please open your videos as and when you speak, because I think it will be in the interest of the public to see who is speaking and also to be really assisting the media that will be working with us on this day to day. Let me address the issue, the purpose of today's meeting. Today's meeting is going to be focused, honorable members, on the update on issues that we have been discussing previously. We have had engagements with the Parliament, we have had engagements with the Public Works and also SAPS in as far as the incident that took place, the fire in Parliament. So what we want or we expect today in our engagement is the update in as far as where we are now, because we are really following on the progress. We are not expecting members to start from scratch. So that we seem to be progressive and be productive in what we are doing. Thank you very much, honorable members. I hope we will be cooperating and give members from different entities an opportunity to give us the update. Are there apologies, Secretariat? Cindy? Co-chairperson, you are also welcome. I'm sorry, my humble apologies for not acknowledging you. Co-chairperson Mabi, you're welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Just to indicate that at a later stage, I'm going to swap gadgets. Cindy should not be surprised when I leave the meeting. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Thank
Afternoon
you.
to the leadership.
Thank you. We understand your busy schedule. Cindy, can you deal with the apologies?
Yes, Chairperson, we have received apologies from Mr. Sheikh Imam and Mr. Hadebe. Both have other pressing commitments. Mr. Singh will join us a little bit later because he's in another meeting. Mr. Hai will also join us a little bit later because he's only arriving in Cape Town in a couple of minutes. And then, Chair, we have also been joined by some of the members of the portfolio and select committees that are responsible for arts and culture, public works, and police.
Okay, thank you so much for reminding me of that. Honorable members from other committees, sister committees that we are working together. This is an item on the agenda that we've been working together. We are really leaving the intergovernmental cooperation to show that we assist each other. We don't go into different directions. We go together and we are on the same page. Hence, we have the committees that will be following on other issues in their select committees and portfolio committees. Thank you very much, Cindy. We note the apologies. Can we then go to the adoption of the agenda? Can I get a mover for the adoption of the agenda?
I move for adoption of agenda, Chair. Kaiso.
Ke a leboha Ntate Qaiso for the adoption. A seconder, please. So nobody wants to, is it only me, and
I
Qaiso?
will second it, Chair Madeleine Hicklin.
Hitler, thank you for the secondment. Thank you. Let's step off that agenda item and go to the next one. Can we then go to the introductory remarks by the Parliament's Executive Authority on the current status of work in the aftermath of the 2nd of January 2022? As I indicated in my opening remarks, the fire that took place in Parliament. The leadership of Parliament, Madam Speaker, are you starting?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, chairpersons of the committee, and thank you, honorable members. And allow me to recognize all departments which are represented at this meeting of the Joint Standing Committee on Financial Management of Parliament, a meeting which will be discussing obviously the impact of the fire which we found ourselves having to deal with on the 2nd of January. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, in the main, I should say the discussion, the presentation will be made on our behalf by the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. And Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure will be doing so together with the team, which is accompanying her from Puka. And following that, we will then take questions together as a team. We have been working very closely together and we are briefed about the report which is about to be presented here. I think it's also important, Chairperson, to indicate to you that this report which is going to be presented this afternoon is a report of the 6th of May. The final report from KUHA, which will be presented to DPWI and then to Parliament, will only be ready on the 20th, which is today. So today is not a presentation of that report. It is still a discussion of the first report, which report, by the way, is also a preliminary report in its draft form as well. I think it's going to be important for me to emphasize that so that there is no impression that the report which is about to be presented by Minister Delil is in fact a final report. And then just to also say, Honorable Chairperson, that the team will talk to the establishment of a steering committee, which is currently underway, and Minister will also brief you about the 2 key deliverables of KUHA, and thereafter the KUHA people will then engage on a whole lot of issues. And lastly, just to say, Chairpersons, on our side as Parliament, we are in the process of establishing an advisory team which will also consist of engineers, which will then advise us as the Executive Authority of Parliament on the reports which we are fed with from the side of UHA through the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. Obviously, you will appreciate that, Chair, as the Department of Public Works makes presentations to us through UHA. Obviously, there'll be terminology, there'll be language, and there will be issues which we may not understand as the executive authority of Parliament, but also including the management of Parliament. So we still need technical experts to
Recording in
assist
progress.
us as Parliament. And that is the process which is currently underway now by the Acting Secretary of Parliament. I think those are the issues I would like to say, but I think it is important that I emphasize through you, Chair, that Parliament and DPWI have what is called a framework within which they cooperate and collaborate. Obviously, as you know, DPWI is a landlord of the state, and everything which has to do with properties of the state, you can only find records of those and whatever from the Department of Public Works. And therefore, that collaboration between ourselves and the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is very pertinent, very key, and so far that is what is happening as we are dealing with this whole issue. What am I saying therefore? I'm saying certainly at this point, the committee will not expect from Parliament to talk about restoration, the restoration process, for instance. Restoration process can only be discussed by Parliament once we have received the final report from UHA and therefore have clarity on what it is that we are going to do as Parliament. For now, it's very difficult for as long as the work of UHA has not been completed. Equally, I'm aware that the police, the Hawks, have been doing, they've conducted and they've completed their forensic investigation in Parliament, and I'm sure a report will be submitted to those who need this report, such as, for instance, the prosecution authority and so on. That is all, Chairperson, for now I can say in my introductory remarks, and then when you interact then with Public Works, we will be in a position together with the Chair to engage with the committee. I thank you, Chairperson, and I thank you, honorable members.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for outlining the purpose, the expectation, and also assisting us in terms of what you have done and reaffirming what I've said initially, to say we really appreciate the cooperation that is there amongst the departments to work together. It's really appreciated. And coming from you, Honorable Speaker, as per your request, I will request Minister Delil, the Minister in the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, to come in, and maybe we'll introduce or hand over to the person who's going to make a presentation on behalf of Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. Honorable Minister.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members, Honorable Speaker and Chair of the NCOP, our Deputy Minister. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to give an update report to Parliament today. The Speaker has represented the working relationship very well. She has outlined the processes that is ongoing, and that the final report will be delivered to the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure today, which is the 20th. So the honorable members will see that when we do our presentation as item number 3 on the agenda, that some events have overtaken us, and we will, when we do the presentation, just give the members the latest update. So we are working closely with the Executive Authority of Parliament. Everything as we go along, Parliament will make the
Honorable
final.
members, can you hear Minister Delil, or is it only me who's experiencing?
We can hear her.
We can hear her.
Just put this.
Honorable members, were you able to hear what the Minister was saying?
Yes,
some
Chair.
Yes, we could hear
Yes.
her.
Okay, the network was weak. The
I lost
problem with the
Minister.
network was mine. Please close the mics. I have heard you, honorable members. Can we give the minister an opportunity to go? My apologies on that, Minister. I think I had a problem. You froze, and I was worried that we
Yes.
couldn't hear. Thank you. Continue.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I was saying, Honorable Chair, that the close working relationship between the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure and Parliament, we are consulting all the way. I want to give the honorable members the assurance that when I receive the final report today, that will deal with the extent of the damage, the cost of the damage, and the restoration program, that will first be presented to the presiding officers. That from a DPWI side, we are committed to continue to work with Parliament, but we do accept that the Executive Authority have got the final say after the final report on the way forward, and that we will receive guidance from the Executive Authority because of the separation of powers, and Parliament, an institution and that is governed by the Executive Authority of Parliament. We understand that clearly. Another point, Chairperson, is that DPWI, we have a scheduled quarterly meeting with the presiding officers where we discuss any other work that is in progress at Parliament, that is in progress in the parliamentary villages, any repairs and maintenance. We update the Executive Authority, the presiding officers, on a quarterly basis, and that will certainly continue. So today, like Speaker have said, at the time when the committee convened the meeting, the only progress report that was available was the progress report of the 6th of May, which we are going to discuss today. Subsequent to that, there is another report that was finalized on the 12th of May, and another one that was finalized on the 19th of May, which will bring us to today, which is the 24th, KUGA as the implementing agency to deliver the final report today on the 20th. The Speaker will then be appraised of everything, and we will then wait to get guidance from Parliament, the members of Parliament, and the Speaker on the way forward. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Chair Mahlangu? Okay. If I'm audible, I think I will continue. Can I get a confirmation that I'm audible?
You are audible.
Okay, I'll take
Yes,
over.
you are. Sir. You are. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable
I
members.
think we should continue. Oh, Chair, you are back. Okay, fine, take over.
Thank you, Co-Chairperson. I'm back. I was kicked out. I think I'm experiencing a connectivity problem at my site. Who is supposed to do the presentation? Honorable Minister?
Sorry, Honorable Chairperson, according to the agenda, we
Yes.
are item number 3, but if you want us to proceed now, we can do so.
Okay, I thought because you have spoken now, we can just give your team to do the presentation, then we'll come to the others afterwards.
Also, we are changing the agenda.
Pardon?
No, I was saying we are changing the agenda.
Yes.
DM, we are just taking the agenda. We are trying to be progressive and not go uncomfortable, honorable members, because I already see the hand of Honorable Mletsani. It's fine. You can go to subs, maybe Honorable DM, you might have a tight schedule and you might have scheduled your commitment according to the agenda. Can we hand over to you, Honorable Matale? DM?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. We did in fact have lined up programs based on what we were given, but thanks a lot and my apologies for this. Good day to yourselves, to the speaker, the chairperson of the NCOP, the Minister of Public Works and the Infrastructure, and the Deputy Minister and the Acting DG. Thanks. We are with a delegation here led by the National Commissioner and the Deputy National Commissioner, together with DPCI, led by the Deputy Head, Mem Sikidi. If you may allow, Chair, without belaboring the points, allow the National Commissioner to lead us in the presentation of what we have prepared here, and then we will task the relevant officials to do the actual presentation. Thanks, and over to you, National Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson, Minister of Public Works, the Deputy Minister of Police, members.
I hope you can hear me, National Commissioner, or is it General who is going to do that? I was off for a minute again. Please pardon me with my connectivity.
Okay, no, it's the National Commissioner who's on the platform now, Chairperson.
Okay, over to you, National Commissioner. And
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, the Minister of Public Works, Deputy Minister of Police, honorable members of the committee, and the DG of Public Works and colleagues. We are going to give an update on the investigation. I will allow the Deputy National Head of DPCI, Lieutenant General Musikidi, to take us through the presentation. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. General Musikidi.
Thank you, General. Is it Dr. Libya?
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, the Deputy Minister, and the rest of the delegation. I will be doing the presentation because I do not have control from my side, maybe I'll request the one who have shared the screen to move to the first slide.
Okay, while you do that, Cindy, please share to the presenters the host powers so that to co-host so that they can move the slides themselves. You can
yes,
assist in the meantime.
Yes, Chair, we gave Mr. Rabi. I was advised Mr. Rabi will share the screen, but is there somebody else I should be giving sharing powers to?
Okay. Okay, you can continue, Doctor. Cindy will help
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The table of contents is this presentation is divided into 3 parts. The first part is part A, then part B. The last one will be part C. The first part will deal with the investigation into the fire that took place on the 2nd of January at the parliamentary precinct in Cape Town. This investigation, this part will be dealt with by the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation. Part B will be relating to the fiscal security and the safeguarding of the precinct. The Divisional Commissioner of Protection and Security Services will deal with this portion. The last part will be the inquiry into the security breach at Tenants Heights, and then that will be dealt with by the Presidential Protection Services. I'm going to move to the next slide. This is the part that I say I'm going to be dealing with. From this slide, all what we need to be reflecting is the case number that is informing this investigation. And we say that with, the case number is reflected at the top. And then on this slide, we are showing the background on this matter. In short, on the 2nd of January 2022, members of the South African Police Service stationed in Parliament saw a smoke that was coming from the old Assembly building. Upon further investigation, the members realized that the old Assembly building was on fire, and the fire brigade were summoned who attended to the incident. The members on the scene of the fire saw an unknown person, African male, who was busy climbing out of a window from inside the old assembly to the outside. So members of the police confronted this person and saw that he was in possession of bags containing property which seemed to be coming from inside the parliament. This African male was arrested and detained in Cape Town Central SAPS on charges of housebreaking and arson. The suspect was identified as Mr. Zandile Christmas Mafe, a 49-year-old man residing in Khayelitsha. The next slide. This one is just an indication of a photo of the person who was arrested. That is Mr. Mafe. Next. The status of the investigation. The crime scene was officially handed to the DPCI, where a colonel from Crimes Against the State was appointed to lead the investigation. This lead investigator interviewed the suspected individual during the day, and the information was obtained from this individual so that the side of his story can also be attended to. We will not be dealing with the content of what he has said, as this will form part of evidence in court. Furthermore, a pointing out was also conducted by a commissioned officer that is not associated with the DPCI. And what has been recorded through this commissioned officer will again be forming part of the evidence that will be presented in court. I will not detail the content thereof. Another commissioned officer not associated with the DPCI was also requested to record a confession. The content of that confession will also not be unpacked here, and it will also be forming part of the evidence that will be presented in court, which will also be given an opportunity to the accused person to dispute the evidence if he so wish. More than 30 hours of video footage, which will speak for itself when we go to court, will also be submitted as evidence in court. The case against the accused, who remains in custody, is postponed until the 9th of June for further investigation. There are certain forensic reports that are still outstanding. In the next slide. In the next slide is just a picture of the precinct. Then I move into the outstanding investigation, as I've indicated that certain evidence, forensic reports are still outstanding. We still need the final fire investigation report, which the experts from the SAPS will be finalizing that. That will also include the photo album, which will be expected to be presented as evidence in court. There is also a final report from the cyber expert relating to the videos that we are talking about, which is being finalized. That has actually been finalized and is being consulted with those who will be utilizing that particular evidence to see if they are satisfied that there is nothing outstanding that needs to be included. There is also a need for the final damage report from the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. I think once they have finalized with the assessment and the like, which will also indicate the extent to which the damage can be incorporated in the charge sheet, is that we're still awaiting. Once all the reports have been received, the case will then be probably taken to the High Court for the purpose of trial. That will conclude the investigation. Any other thing that comes, it will also be attended. The next slide. This will be the end of the presentation on the investigation, and I think my colleagues will then take over from this portion. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members.
Honorable Chairperson, General Rabi will do the last two parts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and Honorable Speaker, the Chairperson of NCOP, our Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers in attendance. Man, thank you for the opportunity. The second part of the presentation deals with the physical security and safeguarding of the precinct, as indicated by General Labia. Now, as far as the regulation of physical security is concerned, in 2018, the Chairperson and Deputy Chairperson or Joint Planning Committee were appointed. And then since then, the process of establishing a Joint Planning Committee never materialized. On the 9th of February 2022, the Divisional Commissioner Protection and Security Services wrote to the Acting Secretary of Parliament to confirm that those that were appointed as Chairperson and Deputy Chairperson are still available for this purpose. It was then confirmed, Honourable Chair, by the Acting Secretary of Parliament that the Chairperson and the Deputy Chairperson are available and that their appointment is still valid. Further to that, the Acting Secretary then requested that the Division Protection and Security Services conduct the National Key Point induction. On the 21st of February 2022, an induction workshop was held with Parliament officials, and the inaugural Joint Planning Committee took place on the 9th of May 2022. All the required role players that were required were in attendance and committed in terms of their respective mandates as stipulated in service of Parliament. The Parliament and SAP's legal services also met on the 12th of May 2022 to iron out issues that relates to conflicts in the Act's separation of powers, owner privileges and immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislator Act 4 of 2004, as well as the National Key Point Act 102 of 1980. As far as the physical security arrangements are concerned or enhancements are concerned, the following three main National Department of Public Works and Infrastructure projects are currently in process. The first one is the maintenance, a contract for current security system with specific reference to CCTV and access control. The second project is the enhanced perimeter barrier and 5 upgraded entrances at the parliamentary precinct. The final scope of this project has now been deemed concluded after receiving the heritage permits from the South African Heritage Resource Agency, and that was issued on the 25th of February 2002. The third project is the upgrade project for the main security control room, including the CCTV cameras, PIDs, UPS, as well as access control. At the same time, the National Treasury has given permission to Public Works to go ahead with these projects. The internal investigation, Honourable Chair, into the compliance to the administrative, procedural and regulatory requirements, roles and responsibility of stakeholders from the South African Police Service by the specific Division Protection and Security Services was concluded on the 28th of February 2022. Certain shortcomings were identified and an action plan has been finalized to address the aforementioned. We also had disciplinary investigations that were concluded on 3 members of Protection and Security Services, and the hearings are currently in process. The additional static protection deployments are currently being facilitated through the payment of overtime that has been implemented at the precinct. Honourable Chair, just touching on the mandate of the component Presidential Protection Services, there has also been an internal investigation conducted. This investigation included certain recommendations that are currently being studied, and there was a second part of or second phase of the investigation initiated in terms of what transpired at the during the specific incidents. Safe to say that as far as the internal disciplinary investigation is concerned, that is also currently pending, and there are certain aspects that it relates to that needs to be finalized. Honourable Chair, that is the main issues that we would like to highlight as far as the Presidential Protection and Protection and Security Services are concerned. Thank you for the opportunity, ma'am.
Thank you, Major General Rabi. We have come to the end of the presentation, and according to the agenda, I think we said we have planned to take all the presentations. Then we will engage coming from there. Can we now give an opportunity to the National Department of Public Works and Infrastructure an opportunity to make their presentation? Thank you, SAPS, Team SAPS. Honorable Braden, sir. I'm trying to pronounce your surname well, Tim.
Yes, Dix.
Bratiseth, do you want to call an order or assist in something? Because now we need to give Public Works an opportunity. You can come in.
No. Honourable Dix, I thought we would take questions after the SAPS presentation, but I'll leave my hand up for after the Public Works presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that understanding. Public Works Minister, do you want to come in again or maybe hand over officially to...
Yeah, Honourable Chairperson, I will just do the introduction of the delegation, and then the presentation will be done by Mr. Christo Beekers. From the Kucha development team, we have Mr. Christo Bekes, who is the project manager. And then Mr. Temba Kosa, who is the executive manager of Kucha. Then we have got Mr. Chuma Mbande. He's the executive manager of Kucha also. And then the fourth one from Kucha is Mr. Kwezi Taya. He is the CEO of Kucha. From DPWI, we have got Dr. Alec Moemi, he's the acting director general. Mr. Mzwandile Sazona, who is the chief director from Prestige. And then on project management, we've got Ms. Tembeka Kolele, the construction project manager in the regional office of DPWI. Mr. Vasna Slabugwani, who is the chief director at National Office for Construction Project Management. And then the last one is Mr. Batu Makutu, who is the deputy director general for Construction Project Management. The presentation will be done by Mr. Christo Bekes from Kucha. Through you, Chairperson, if you may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Over to you, Mr. Bekes.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson, Madam Speaker, Chairperson of the NCOP, Ministers, Deputy Ministers, and Acting Director General. Thank you for the opportunity. I don't know if the presentation will be shared from that side. Otherwise, I can share my screen.
If you are given those powers, please just share the screen so that you can move fast from you can control it from your side.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Yeah, we can see it.
Thank you, Chairperson. As the Minister introduced, the presentation that we've actually prepared in terms of the progress to date was actually for the 6th of May. We have advanced in terms of the detailed assessment, the phase 2 of our deliverable. So if I can start off with the presentation outline, we will give an update as to the 2 deliverables of our appointment. The deliverable 1 was for the initial assessment report pertaining to the structural integrity of both buildings after the fire, pronouncing whether it's safe for the Hawks and fire forensics to enter these buildings due to the extensive damage, in particular in the new assembly. Deliverable number 2 is what we're currently busy with, the detailed assessment. This assessment involves the introduction of our multidisciplinary team of professionals, starting with architect, electrical, as well as fire engineers. And then the second bullet there is to provide some indication of the proposed restoration schedule in terms of where we are. As the Minister said, we will also reflect on our current progress. The Minister mentioned the fact that the report for phase 2 is due today, which we hard at work with, and then a conclusion. So, Honourable Chairperson, if I can continue with deliverable 1. Of importance here is the fact that that preliminary report was completed and issued to DPWI on the 23rd of February. But as you would recall from our previous engagement, where we presented to this same committee, that report was incomplete at the time due to the flooding of the lower basement in the new assembly. Then the particular extraction of that water was only completed on April 5, and our structural team could actually enter the lower basements in order to conduct physical assessments of the structural integrity of those particular floors. That was concluded, and the report was then finalized on the 14th of April as a revision 1, incorporating our findings. We can confirm in this forum that we found no major structural defects, obviously as a result of fire, because the fire was actually not occurring in that particular area. but we also investigated the potential structural defects as a result of the water. You will recall we indicated 1.4 million liters of water that we established down there. But the report thereafter did not indicate any material findings pertaining to the structural integrity of those particular floors. Then the report was taken under review by DPWI, revision number 1, and they effected some comments. And we, on the 5th of May, basically issued the revision number 2, which is now the final report pertaining to our appointment for the phase 1 deliverable. And that is in the process of being signed off by DPWI. Madam Chairperson, if I continue, deliverable number 2, as indicated, is the detailed assessment to determine the extent of the damage caused by the fire, indirectly as well, with regard to the extensive damage we've seen with regard to smoke and water. The Kuga team was, on the 11th of May, briefed in terms of this particular assignment. After the project was handed back by the Hawks to DPWI, and we immediately thereafter commenced the physical assessment. As I indicated, all professionals in the different built environment disciplines were involved with that phase. Sorry, Madam Chair, I just had an interruption here. Then the Kuga team commenced with the physical assessment before Easter, as well as over Easter weekend, due to the timeframes we had to adhere to the deliverable. That assessment also continued after Easter. Unfortunately, as we indicated previously, the month of April had a lot of holidays. So a number of people obviously took leave in between those particular public days. So we completed basically all disciplines from architectural, again, structural, electrical, mechanical, as well as our heritage architect spent a lot of time basically on site in examining the damage caused by the fire. The consultants then prepared the data set of information where they've captured the extent of damage. And those data sets for both buildings, the old and new assembly, were accordingly submitted to our professional quantity surveyors, who immediately started to analyze the data in order for them to determine the cost estimation of the damage in terms of the restorative works required for both these buildings. If I continue, Madam Chair, this is just some indications of the level of deep detail that our consultants went into. This is structural drawings in terms of providing the remedial restorative works that's required given the extent of damage on the concrete elements. You will recall from the phase 1 report the extensive damage caused from the second floor right up to the roof level. And the consultants now accordingly provided the information in such a way that our quantity surveyors can actually measure the works as accurately as possible and then put a cost to that. So this is typically what will be included in the phase 2 report. And that information, as I already said, was issued to our quantity surveyor for completing the cost estimations. From an architectural point of view, both our heritage architect, in close collaboration with our building architect, provided the following information. This is an informal drawing that we just actually inserted in this presentation on the 6th of May. However, these drawings have now been formalized. So even though it's of bad quality in this particular presentation, it has now been formalized, and the drawings that will be incorporated in the final report, phase 2 report, will be much clearer. So the color coding on the right, Madam Chair, is the various categories with the various extent of damage and the required remedial. And that was done in such a way so the cost estimations can be done as accurate as possible. That was then also categorized into 3 zones, zone A, B, and C, and that information is then basically determining the full extent of damage with cost. So these drawings, for instance, will be much better in the final report pertaining to the colors. We do understand that the colors on this presentation will not necessarily now match the table, but these are much enhanced in terms of the phase 2 report. If I proceed then to the cost estimation, this is just the proposed structure pertaining to the zones, as I mentioned, zone A, B, and C, and it covers basically all the building traits, starting from your preliminaries, your substructure, your superstructure, right down to your external works. So it basically covers all the built environment particular traits in order for them to attach a cost to those traits from a restorative measurement point of view. Madam Chair, the next slide is basically the phase 2 table of contents or the structure of the report. We have, through our technical project steering committees, with engagement with DPWI and Parliament, agreed on the structure of the report so that the report is then compiled in the structure accepted by the steering committee. It's very small, I do apologize, but the intention is to give an indication that for every building, the level of detail from architecture, electrical, electronics, mechanical, and fire services to structural and civil is quite detailed. In particular, electrical, electronics, mechanical, and fire services, that's the green highlighted section in this presentation. You can see to what level of detail the investigation has been done as to ICT services, audio and visual systems, etc. So that's the level of detail our consultants have actually investigated the damage to all these elements under the particular disciplines. And the same structure for the old assembly has been applied for the new assembly on the far right at the bottom. And that is done for every floor in those particular buildings. And then I think, Madam Chair, of importance here is item 5 in the middle page on the bottom is where we will then provide the high-level cost estimations for the restorative works for both buildings. And also we will provide some cost comparisons in that particular section of the report. Item 6, which is color coded in black, is the indication of estimated construction, the extent of damage, and the cost thereof. So for planning purpose, it's quite clear how long this work will take from a planning perspective as well as from a construction perspective. Then a health and safety recommendation section and conclusion. And then on the far right, you would see a page with all the annexes. The annexure will contain all the detail, for instance, the structural drawings that I earlier depicted, as well as any other information to support the narrative of this particular report. If I continue, Madam Chair, so the next slide is then covering the extensive complexities that we encountered. For instance, in the old assembly, even though the fire was restricted to the second floor at roof level, when we started the assessment and we entered basically lower floors into all the spaces and rooms, we found quite extensive water and smoke damage. That resulted in some complexities in terms of the unknown factor of us spending much more time in order to gather the information and then obviously convert that information into information for the cost estimations. So on the 12th of May, we presented a preliminary detailed report to the Department of Public Works. And that was just an indication to give the technical steering committee an indication of our progress, but also a look and feel for what the report will actually contain. And then The last bullet there, Madam Chair, is the fact that the report will, as the Minister said, it's to be submitted today on the 20th in draft format, and it will be reviewed and final changes will still be effected to the report, and we have set aside next week in order to incorporate those final comments that may be forthcoming from both DPWI as well as Parliament. This is just at a time on the 6th of May, our progress to date that we reported to the department as well as Parliament in our progress meetings and technical steering committee meetings. And at the time, we were slightly behind on progress pertaining to the cost estimates due to the volume of data that the professional quantity surveyors had to work through. And then the disciplines started to provide a compilation of the report. I can confirm that our report is 98% done. We just this afternoon finalizing the cost estimations after the meeting this morning with our quantity surveyors. And as the minister mentioned, the report due to the will be completed and issued this afternoon to the minister. This is the extent of water damage, mold that started to form in the chamber of the Old Assembly. This was the fact that the fire only occurred, as I already stated, in a particular wing on the second floor. Particular ceiling of this chamber has also been damaged. So all of this information had to carefully be collected, then obviously processed.
Chair, are you there? The slide which was up on the screen is not there anymore. I don't know if it is load shedding, it is network problems or what.
Yes, it seems that he's been kicked out.
Okay,
rejoining.
Yeah, I'm back now. Cindy, what is happening with the slides?
Chair, I see Mr. Bekus is back on. He might have had some difficulties, technical difficulties, but he's back now.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bekus? We are on conclusion, number 3.
I've asked Mr. Okay, he's unmuted now. Okay, good.
Okay.
I just want to remove this, Madam Chair. Where do I do that now?
You are on conclusion 3. Is that the correct slide?
That's correct, Madam Chair. I just already indicated in terms of the report structure. We will provide indicative timelines for both the planning phase of the restorative work in both buildings, and the durations of the construction works is also informed by the various construction methodologies and the complexities. That's very important, especially on the structural aspects of the. And then with regard to the implementation for the restorative works, that process will now commence, and it will be subject to Parliament's approval. I thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bekus and Team DPWI for the presentation. I think now we can give members an opportunity to engage with the 2 presentations. I have noted the honorable team. Bratisa, the first. Number 2 is Honorable Matapelo. I don't see the surname well. I see Honorable Mletsani. I saw the name, but now it has been removed. Samantha Graham, Honorable Graham.
Chairperson.
Yes.
Chairperson, Honourable Dix, no, I hear what you're saying, but do we not need to hear the Heritage Association report first before we go to questions?
I was advised on in as far as the agenda is concerned, and also the consent by SAPS, that they have scheduled other commitments, that we deal with this and we finish so that they can be released. And then we'll go to Heritage. I hope that is not going to make any damage to our engagement. Honorable Khai, Honorable Van Schalkwyk. Is there any other hand, Cindy?
Yes, Chairperson, just Mr. Kaiso.
Okay, Honorable Kaiso.
Yes, and then that's the list of 7 members for now, Chair.
Okay, the co-chair will be the last. Thank you. Honorable Tim.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, my signal is not stable, so if you don't mind, I'll leave my camera off. Chairperson, I'm going to be very brief, and I will focus. I'm sure many questions are going to be asked to Public Works, so I will just focus on SAPS. The first question I have for the Commissioner is, in the first 1 or 2 slides, when Mr. Mafe was found in Parliament, exiting the building, he was taken to the Cape Town Central SAPS, and it said that he was charged with housebreaking, theft, and arson. My question there is, until you know that a person is guilty of something, you normally detain them. So why did the SAPS very shortly, within a very short period of time, take him off and charge him for arson? Surely the SAPS didn't have evidence against him at that point. I'm concerned here, Chairperson, that assumptions were made immediately, which points to something quite sinister. So I really would like to get an answer on that. Then further on in the presentation, not the Commissioner, but his colleague refers to static protection. Now, Chairperson, this is exactly the problem that we had. There are no patrols of Parliament. I've been in Parliament since 2014. I often take walks around the perimeter of Parliament, up through gardens, up to the museum, then over the top, down past the Jewish Museum, and back to Parliament, just to get the blood circulating. I've taken many walks around the Taine's Gardens. I've never, ever seen an SAPS patrolling the external perimeter of Parliament. I'm talking about an officer with a K9 member patrolling the perimeter, checking entrances, perhaps even patrolling to a certain record. Now, I'm very concerned that our SAPS sit static positions in Parliament, at the gates, doing obviously important work. But the problem is while they are sitting at those gates, there is no protection for the remainder of the perimeter. And we cannot say we were going to rely on a fence. Clearly, it didn't work. Mr. Mafe got in. So what is the SAPS going to do to get themselves into gear and make sure that there is a constant perimeter patrol with a K9 member around the perimeter of Parliament? Please don't come here with stories of fences and lots of people sitting at a gate doing nothing. We need a perimeter patrol. I really want clarity on that. Then my third question is disciplinaries. We are just told in one line 3 disciplinaries were held. Well, I'd like to know what those disciplinaries were about. What were they charged with? Because those officers have obviously been disciplined for something serious that took place over the period when the fire started. And they could well be negligently responsible for this fire because they did not complete their duties. We cannot have a situation where officers who may not have been patrolling, who may not have been watching the cameras, who have not been doing their job, allowed a person to come into Parliament who may or may not have started the fire. This cannot be some little minor disciplinary matter that just gets pushed to the side and forgotten about. This is extremely serious, Chairperson, and I would demand a response as to what were those disciplinaries about? What were those members charged for? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Team. Honorable Suisa.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you for the opportunity. Chairperson, I have 2 questions. One is I hear that the investigation, we are talking about a suspect that was held up, and then we are being told, as the previous speaker has said, one line about 3 people that are going to disciplinary. What measures are going to be taken if the disciplinary comes and says these people have been found guilty with negligence? As we know that there is not enough perimeter, that is a perimeter patrol that is going on. What steps are they also, is there also going to be a case opened against the people that were supposed, that were on duty, the 3 people that we're talking about, if the disciplinary comes back and says they've been found guilty with negligence too? My question would be to the Minister of Public Works. Why is Kucha the one being involved in the whole proceedings of, they are more involved than an IDT that the PC of Public Works can have an oversight on? Because we've got IDT that we've got jurisdiction to say that we can do oversight on them. And yet Kucha is being brought on board to come and deal with the issue of assessment and whatever work that needs to be done at Parliament. What were the reasons that Kucha was the more preferred candidate than the IDT? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Suisa. The next one is Honorable Graham Mare.
It's Moletsane.
Oh, what can I appeal in Tatem?
I was before, Chair, by the way.
Okay.
You said it even. Now you are changing.
Yeah, but I get a hurry to it. I want to be nice. How?
Oh,
it's fine, Honorable Letani. You can come in. I think Honorable Graham Mare will be kind enough to allow you to come in. It's fine. You can come in.
Thank you, Chairperson. Unless you made me aware that you wanted to make it ladies first, then I would have accepted. Thank you, Chair. I've got 2 questions. My first question, already my 2 colleagues have spoken about the 3 members who have been charged. I just want to know, where are these 3 members at the present moment? Are they still reporting at work? And then how soon should we expect the conclusion of their disciplinary hearing, since the investigation of their hearing has been concluded? Secondly, my question goes, it says it's on the SAPS again. They've explained that there are still outstanding report. Now I just want to find out, Chair, that how long more or less is going to take to for us to wait for the availability of those outstanding report. No, not reports. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mletsani. Honorable Graham Mare.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Your name well. My apologies if I don't.
You've pronounced it absolutely perfectly. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.
Chairperson, just a couple of questions, just on the SAPS report. I have to say that I know everybody's asking questions about the disciplinary hearings. I'm super impressed that any organization of government has managed to actually conclude a disciplinary inquiry within 4 months and is ready to proceed with disciplinary hearings. I think that's the first time I've ever heard that happen. So congratulations on the speed at which this has been done, and hopefully it'll bear fruit and bear dividends. I'm curious as to why SAPS is reporting on the 3 projects if the National Treasury has been required to sign off on it for the NDPWI. So I'd like to know who's ultimately responsible for those 3 projects with respect to SAPS's reporting. Sorry, I'll just want to give those names again. I'm on a different slide. The access control, etc., that they were talking about. I'd like to know where the funds are being sourced from to cover the cost of those 3 projects, because obviously these were not part of the initial budgeting for this new financial year. I'd like to know if they are emanating from the DPWI budget, which program they fall under. And also we have no idea of what the costs are involved with respect to these 3 projects.
Can you please mute? Can you please mute? Can you mute, please?
Honorable Mabe. Honorable Mabe.
Oh, co-chairperson, please mute. Co-chair. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. And then just with respect to the presentation done by the CDC, I'd like to know whether or not the scope of works has changed for the CDC from the their appointment on the basis of what the tender initially requested, and by how much that scope has changed, and at what cost. And then finally, I'd like to know whether or not we are going to receive any report on what this entire debacle has cost us from the date of the fire. In other words, what has been spent on securing premises, getting rid of the water, initial work that's been done, etc., etc. At what stage will we get a consolidated report of what this entire thing has cost? Thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Khai.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Apologies for...
Honorable Khai.
Can you hear me, Chair? Or can everybody else hear me?
Okay, can you go to Honorable?
Can you hear me, Chair?
You are audible, Honorable. We can hear you.
Oh, I think the Chair has got a problem.
Oh.
Yeah, everybody can hear me, Chair.
Now I can hear you and see you.
Oh, very good. Chair, thanks. Let me apologize for joining late. I was on a flight from Durban. Thank you for the, let me first greet the speaker, the chairperson of the NCOP, the minister, deputy ministers, present, Director General of the department, the generals from the police and DPCI. Thank you very much. I just first, my question will go to Directorate of Priority Investigation. The report says that the case has been of Mr. Mafe was postponed for further investigation. I think the next appearance will be on the 9th of June. Given that General Bia is reporting that there are outstanding reports, I want to find out if by the 9th of June, the case will go ahead. Will those reports be made available? The next issue that also relates to the outstanding report, this question goes to DPWI. I just want to check, because the General Libya is saying that one of the outstanding reports is a report from the damage report from DPWI. What I want to find out is the report that is going to be submitted today. Is it the report that
DPCI is waiting for, or is it a different report altogether? I just wanted to find out with regard to that. But if it is not, if a Department of Public Works and Infrastructure can clarify where is the delay, if it's not one of the report that CDC is dealing with, if we can get this, the explanation with regard to that. But also, I would like to say something with regard to disciplinary hearing, though honorable member before me appreciate the fact that the investigation has been done in 4 months. I don't think we should be appreciating that. I mean, disciplinary hearing should take place as soon as possible. In fact, this is investigation, not the disciplinary hearing. We have not yet have the disciplinary hearing. It might take another 4 months just to have a disciplinary hearing. So we need to be assured in terms of the time frames with regard to the disciplinary hearing. We understand the investigation took 4 months. We need to find out when is then the disciplinary hearing going to take place. Chair, the next question, I just want to find out from the police. This is related also to the question that was raised by Honorable Tim. The report says of the police says that SAPS Legal Services and Parliament met to iron out issues of conflict. Those issues then are clarified in the report. Has those issues now been resolved? Have those issues been resolved? But do they also include the issue that Honorable Tim is talking about, that of monitoring the precinct of Parliament? Secondly, we have the National Key Point Act of 1980. I just want to find out, isn't it about time that there should be amendment with regard to that particular act, because it's 1980, so that to address some of the gray areas that perhaps we're facing now when it comes to securing the national key points. The last point, Chair, this will go, I know that the South African Heritage Resource Agency has not yet reported, but when I read its report, there's something about section 27, subsection 18, that talks about, if you can switch off your video, Chair, that talks about damage to properties, heritage properties. I want to know first from them whether they have then laid or opened a criminal case for the damage to Parliament, which is regarded as also one of the heritage resources. But that question also goes to the PCI to whether they have added that as part of the charges against Mr. Murphy. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Hai. The next is Honorable van Schalkwyk.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and good afternoon to the Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Co-Chairpersons, Minister, Deputy Ministers, all the members of Parliament, including the staff that is present today in this meeting. Chairperson, there are issues that I wanted to raise that's already been raised by previous members, so I'm not going to go into those issues again, but just to emphasize, Chairperson, on the outdated legislation. So maybe we need to look at all relevant outdated legislation and try to ensure that indeed it's been amended to be relevant in the current conjuncture. Then, Chairperson, just a few other issues that I wanted to ask is, when will it be possible for a possible on-site visit so that we can familiarize ourselves as the affected members of parliament in the different portfolios to see what is really the state of affairs, and not only relying on photos and reports, but indeed we need to ensure also that the building is indeed safe for on-site visit. Then in terms of the costing, Chairperson, is there an indication in terms of what the estimate cost would be, including if there are enough resources available to ensure that this project will be finalized? Then, Chairperson, I would also like to know if there is a timelines in place so that we can at least know, for instance, by January 2023, what is envisaged to be the planning on where the process will be in terms of the restoration of the building? Or would it take another 2 or 3 years to ensure that the parliament will be safe to use again? Then including the NCOP, Chairperson. Then, Chairperson, we know that this fire ensured or it led to many MPs of different political parties, including staff, being without office space. And seeing that we are now ready to occupy offices, we would like to know what the process is and what is in place in terms of ensuring that a majority of the staff can return to work and indeed will be provided with the relevant office spaces. I think I'll pause there. Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Van Schalkwyk. Honorable Taiso next.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I have only 2 questions. But firstly, let me also welcome the presentation made, led by the Speaker and the Chairperson of the National Council of Province present, and the different presenters, department, public works, the subs. Yes, I think it's quite elaborative presentation which has been made, and it seeks to clarify as to the process, as to where are they, since we have met with the department previously. So to be taken into confidence, because not only us as MPs who are eager to know and to let this process to be fast-tracked, but also believe that the members of the community outside, the public there outside also are eager to know what is happening and what is a progress, and we appreciate this detailed progress. But however, Chairperson, I just want to make a follow-up. Like I've heard my colleagues have inquired about the matter on the investigative disciplinary. It sounded very clear that investigative disciplinary. I want to agree with my colleague, Honorable Khai, that no, definitely this sounds like it's a process. It's only one process that the subs are busy with, and that is to investigate with the aim of disciplining people there. So it doesn't sound like a disciplinary hearing. It has been done, or people have been finally charged and put into the disciplinary process. So unless maybe the leader of the sub is able to actually explain to us that it will suffice. The last thing is on the, I just want to check does the department or mayor know where this budget for reparations in the parliament is going to come from? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Taiso. Honorable Shabalala. And then co-chairperson will come after you. Honorable Lizzie Shabalala.
Thank you, Chair. Can I close my video because my network is not good?
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I'm partly covered by the honorable members who have spoken before me. Good afternoon, Chair, to the Speaker, Minister Delil, SEPS, and the NCOP reps, and my colleagues. Thank you for the presentation that has been done. Although in some instances, I heard about the update. Seemingly there is an update and there will also be an update of this update until the report is finalized. Chairperson, I want all of us to remember that we are representing the people of South Africa and the higher echelons of government. All the people of South Africa have the utmost trust. Their safety depends on how the state is safe. And it's very unfortunate that we find ourselves in this situation, but I would like to urge SEPS to say maybe it will restore the confidence in the hopeless times. It will restore confidence in the community if you're talking about disciplining the members, there must be really consequences and harsh consequences that is equal to the embarrassment that we have experienced. Secondly, I heard something about the further investigation. I'm not sure whether I'm mixing the investigations that I'm following in the media. The further investigation in terms of the case against Mafe. And for me, I tend to agree with the first speaker to say, where was SEPS sure about the charges to Mafe? But linked to that is the crime against the state. Can SEPS share with us what have they taken from this incident for future references? I'm saying this because like in July here in KZN, we find ourselves in the back foot where the legislature, the building of the legislature had to be guarded because there was a plan to the plot to burn it down. But it has escalated to some other places of government where people, whenever they are angry, it's easy for them. They think this is the target. What has the SEPS taken from this one? The issue of the restoration, because there was a lot of water under in the basement. I know that over time, after some years, you'll find that there are new structural problems that you might not have noticed at this particular time. Is there contingency funding that will be infected into this funding of the restoration? Another thing is that is there that's in a form of a spreadsheet that you can see from the, okay, I heard about the planning, but the timelines as to which Chairperson, I'm sorry. I think I was out. I don't know. My network is not good. But I'm talking about the programmatic stages of the project, and also the procurement plan that is linked to this. Thank you so much, Chairperson. And sorry about my network.
No problem. Thank you very much, Honorable Shabalala. Now go to the co-chairperson to be the last one on the questions, and thereafter we will request subs to be ready with the responses. Co-chair.
No, thank you. No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I don't necessarily have a question. Just to maybe remind members that at the beginning of the process, we had made a commitment that as much as we are expected to conduct thorough oversight and make sure that we leave no stone unturned, but we will try and do our level best in making sure that we don't at any stage put pressure on matters related to investigations. So I'm saying this with a bit of a caution. I would not want members to feel that I'm breaking ranks. I'm not breaking ranks, but I just want to caution and remind the collective that we have said that we want the relevant authorities to take their time. Yes, we understand this is a high priority case, but at no point are we going to then put pressure on them and wanting them especially to divulge information that might compromise the case, and also put pressure on them so that they can then give information that is not supposed to be shared with the public. So, Chair, I thought I should just make that statement. Of course, to remind ourselves that if SAPS is coming before this committee to give us information, it should be noted. Yes, there should be questions of clarity, but it's a process. And also we cannot put timeframes on when should they complete this process. Because we also said we want the correct perpetrators to be apprehended. We want South Africans to be satisfied with the investigations. We want a fair process. In the main, we said we want fairness. So we really appreciate, one can just say that we appreciate the work to this date and appreciate the fact that they are even willing to come before the committee, before the public, and share the little that is there without necessarily going into detail. So, Chair, I thought I should just maybe caution members and appreciate the work that has been done by Public Works, by the leadership of Parliament, by SAPS and the courts, and the nurses and the weaknesses, if they're there, and internal disciplinary actions that needs to be undertaken. Also, there are laws with regard to that. My comment would say that let us try and make sure that we follow the law to the letter and we protect all parties involved in this matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Co-Chairperson. Can we allow subs to give responses on questions that were directed to your good selves by honorable members?
Thanks very much, Chair, and thanks to the questions. I'll ask that National Commissioner and General Levia should lead in our response. Thanks very much. Over to you, General Levia, National Commissioner.
Thank you, DM. National Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, the Minister, the Madam Speaker of the Parliament, and DM. Yeah, thanks. With regard to the question around the charges leveled against Mr. Murphy, General Libya will respond with regard to that. But the charges that we leveled against him, there was nothing wrong with them. And of course, in terms of law, as we investigate the cases, we can add additional charges together with the NPA as and when it's necessary. But he will respond more on that. We are committed, Honorable Chairpersons and Honorable Members, we take this matter very serious, and we are doing our best in making sure that at the end of the day, the case is successfully brought to the courts. With regard to the investigation, internal investigation, I know that I was briefed by General Slavani that, yeah, they finalized. He will give the details of where they are now as to how far is the case, departmental case against those members. So we are not taking it down. We make sure that we proceed with the departmental inquiry. I will ask General Libya to comment, and thereafter General Slavani will also come in. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. I will start with the first question of the charge. Indeed, we have indicated that the person has been charged on housebreaking and arson. At times, there might be a confusion in the eyes of ordinary person as to what do we refer to by charge. There is a charge that the language that is used by the police at the police station, and the interpretation is slightly different when it comes to the prosecution charge for the purpose of prosecution. So when you arrest a person, that person must appear before court within 48 hours. And within that 48 hours, you must have charged the person. So that is the charge that we are referring to. Once all the investigation is completed, the prosecuting authority, which is the only authority that have got the right to prosecute on the instant of the state, will determine the final charge sheet. And that is where other aspects that are supported by evidence will be included. You will recall that I indicated that this matter might go to High Court. And if that becomes the case, then an indictment will also be served on the accused person. That is where the complete charge sheet will be produced. So I hope that it answers the question of how we have been able to charge speedily. That is a provisional charge. The second question relates to the Honorable Muladzani with regard to the outstanding report. I know that the Honorable Shabalala has also hinted on this outstanding report, which means that I will just deal with the report inclusive of the Honorable Rai on as to when will the report be available. Firstly, I have indicated that with regard to the cyber, part of the report is finalized, is being studied by the relevant prosecuting authority to see if it fulfills all the elements so that if there are questions, they can still be answered. And there is a forensic science laboratory report that I said is still outstanding. Certain portion of that report has already been completed and has been shared with the investigating officer. But there is a certain element that the experts need from those who are conducting some of the investigation from the DPW, which I will not be elaborating here because there are technical things, although it has been brought to my attention. I just need to say that there are certain aspects that are needed from certain engineers, which will form part of the forensic science completion of its report. That is what is outstanding. And I think that the DPWI have indicated of the process of finalizing. At the time when we were compiling our report, we have been advised that by today there will be discussion, and then once their final process has been completed, it will be made available. And that will also be forming part of the docket for the purpose of the prosecution. Those are the outstanding investigation. How long can we still wait for this report to be available? I think, as I have indicated, the last one will depend on the report that we will be waiting from DPW. And one does not expect that it will be long, but one also does not expect that it will be ready by the 9th of June. It is always better to do proper work, because each report of an expert can be subjected to serious cross-examination by other experts, which I think that is the reason for us to allow them to do proper work. So that addresses the question of the reports. The last question that is directed to the DPCI is with regard to the question as to whether the charges relating to the contravention of the National Heritage Resources Act 25 of 1999 have been added or will be added. As I've indicated, when the whole investigation is completed, the National Prosecuting Authority will determine as to whether there is a need to add any other charge. But I have personally looked at that particular act and the purpose of establishing that act. And I think all of the crimes that are expected in terms of that law are accommodated in section 51. But we'll also be checking with those who are policing that particular administrative aspect to see if anyone will be advancing charges in this regard. So that is where I can end with regard to the question directed at the DPCI. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and
Thank
the
you.
Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
And the chairperson of NCOP and the honorable members. I am General Sam Shitlaban. I'm sorry that I'm not in the office. I'm at the operational, I'm dealing with the operation, but nevertheless, I have connected. The first question, it comes from Honorable Tim in terms of the patrols, that there are no patrols. I'm not sure whether I'm audible and
Yeah,
visible.
you are very much audible. I'll request the co-chairperson to take from here.
Well, the first question that I will respond to. Yes, Honorable Chair. Yeah, the first question that I will respond to as directed by the National Commissioner, is from the Honorable team in terms of the patrols around the perimeter of Parliament. We do have patrols, Honorable team, around Parliament. Perhaps maybe it might have been one of those days that members would have not patrolled around, especially within the, the 10 haze. But we do have, if you look at it, would have reflected that we have over and above, because those are some of the gaps that we have identified in terms of the personnel that would have around the parliamentary precinct. Then would have additional members that would be then dealing with the, which were paying them overtime, which complement the current personnel that we have. And then when it comes to the K9, meaning the dogs, it should be also understood that you would not use any dogs. So what you basically need, because dogs need to be trained, they have to be, we have to have then the patrol, what we call patrol dogs. But in our environment, what we normally do would have dual dogs, which then would perform patrols and also would do the explosive. So we're in the process of really, increasing, because primarily what we have is explosive dogs that we have within the environment. But we've looked at that from the report that we have generated in terms of this experience of, Parliament, that we've seen that we can use those resources in terms of patrolling, especially during the night. So we're in the process of really introducing K9, especially the patrol dogs, as I mentioned. And then when it comes to the disciplinary charges against the 3 members that we have mentioned, we've charged them in terms of negligence, in terms of duties. But obviously, because when you look at, because there is a process in terms of disciplinary, processes are concerned, you would not charge a member and you take a member directly, you charge him and then it goes to disciplinary hearing. It means that there has to be an investigation. Now, the first process that we would have done would to investigate, which takes time, but there is prescripts that would prescribe that, as soon as you have charged them, so it means within 60 days, you must have completed that. So the charges are based on that, and they are going to appear. The first member that would appear, it will be on the 31st of May, and then the 2 members, then they would appear on the 7th and the 8th of June. So the dates have been set, because it means in terms of disciplinary procedure, it means we have to appoint functionaries that are going to then deal with the disciplinary, process. And then the second question, it comes from Honorable Mletsane, in terms of where the 3 members, if I'm not mistaken. The 3 members, we have temporarily placed them outside Parliament. It means they are deployed within the stations outside, the protection services, which is temporary until we finalize, the disciplinary process, where then based on that, because what would happen then would get the findings, which then would say whether it's dismissal or what have you, which then if we're not happy, for an example, as a divisional commissioner and the national commissioner would then be able to then review. So that is the process that we have to follow. The third question comes from Honorable, Mare. I think it was mainly referring to public works in terms of the sourcing for the 3 projects. I think if the 3 projects would understand, but I think public works will be able to answer in terms of the, the funding for those 3 projects. But where we come in as subs, we come in because we are the ones from security advisory within the South African Police Service that we do then the appraisal. So all those, physical security that were presented, they would then be coming from the South African Police Service under the Security Advisory Services, which then they would determine what kind of perimeter, what kind of, CCTV cameras, your motion detector, the beams and so on. And then the fourth question, it comes from Honorable Rai. What is the time frame? I think we have answered this in terms of the first one sitting on the 31st of May, and then the other two then on the 7th and the 8th. And then in terms of the outdated legislation, in terms of the national key point, yes, we agree that if you look at the national key point, it's of 1980. Now, the honorable members would recall that there is a new act which is called Critical Infrastructure Protection Act of 2019, which then is going to replace the old act, which is the national key point. Now, we have already started in terms of the civilian secretariat, in terms of drafting the regulation, which us as South African Police Service, our responsibility is to give the content. So those regulations, we have the temporary regulations that would have been then signed and given to the minister, which then eventually then they will be presented to Parliament. This is the process that also it should be understood. And then the next question, it comes from Honorable Van Schalkwyk. I think it's again in terms of the outdated legislation. I think we've answered that one. And then the other question, it comes from Honorable Kaiso. We must explain the process in terms of the disciplinary process. I think we also have explained that, the process of disciplinary, it means you have to investigate and you must be able to have a case that the members, they have to be able to answer. So in this particular case, when we have appointed then an investigator, which we did appoint 2 officers that they were investigating, indeed, these 3 members, they've got a case to answer, hence would have charged them. The last question, it comes from Honorable Shabalala, which talks to, or I think this one, it talks to what is it that SAPS has taken from this. I think that will be answered, overall, I think from the National Commissioner, what are the lessons, I guess, that would have learned, from this, tragedy of the, fire in Parliament. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. Those are our responses. Just in addition, on the Critical Infrastructure Act, the act required that there be a council appointed. I must say that the minister have appointed the council, and the regulations have been published somewhere, I think, last week. And from there, those sections of the act that needs to come into operation will then start to be in operation. Those are our responses. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Members, are there any questions that you would want to maybe seek further clarity on? This is work in progress. We will not be able to get all the answers today. Let's just quickly check for 2 minutes. For a minute, okay, there are no further clarity seeking questions. Cindy, can you advise in terms of the agenda? I think it is now Public Works. Also, just to caution the meeting that I've received quite a number of calls, members requesting to be excused because it's Friday, it's traveling day. So if we can try to summarize, I know that this is quite a very important meeting, but we would want to end the meeting at least with 60% of the members present in the meeting. So if we can try to be as quick as we can. All right, thank you. You're welcome, Minister Dile.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I will be quick. The question about how many officers have been affected by the Parliament. 211 officers of members of Parliament have been affected, the 5 presiding officers, and 193 assembly members, and then 13 NCOP members. So also 184 support staff officers were affected by the fire, and Parliament did an assessment, and Parliament has been able to swap some of the administrative officers for members of Parliament. We have also made available to the chair and the deputy chair of the NCOP will be accommodated on the 7th floor on 120 Plain Street. 8 officers have been made available. And then we've also made office space available on the 2nd and the 12th floor of Parliamentary Towers. And then some offices available on the 6th floor of 90 Plain Street has been made available. So most of the members have been resettled. Honorable Chairperson, in terms of the procurement process for Kucha, I will ask the department to respond to that. Then the next question about the 3 projects for Parliament and the funding for that, also the department can respond. Just in terms of the damages to Parliament and the readiness for the report to go to the NDPP, I want to give members the assurance, I've discussed it with the Speaker this morning, that we will make sure that once we receive the final report today, that we start processing it so that we could meet the deadline long before the 9th of June. So we will give you that assurance. And then just on the issue of the cost, the report that we will be receiving today will deal with the extent of the damage, the cost of the damage, and also the restoration time. So we don't have that right now, including the procurement process. The procurement process will be all subject to the approval of Parliament. And even that we don't have information on yet, because it will be discussed with Parliament before any procurement. Honorable Chair, I'll ask the department to answer the supply chain management answers. I don't deal with supply chain. Over to you, Acting DG. Through you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Chairperson and honorable members, thank you very much. And on the issue of the appointment of Kucha, the National Treasury had granted us a deviation in as far as appointment of state implementing agencies. And from that panel of implementing agencies, we had invited those implementing agencies to have a competitive bidding process by which we would then be able to appoint one. And from there, after the bidding process, Kucha had the lowest of the quoted quotations, and that quotation was subsequently accepted and approved by the department, and they were appointed for this purpose. So as it is, we are not aware about any process relating to the IDT. At the time of this, the IDT indeed had no capacity to be able to handle a job of this magnitude, and needless to state that they did not participate even in the competitive bidding process. So this would be the long and short of the answer pertaining to the appointment of Kucha in this regard. Thanks, Honorable Chair and Minister.
Thank you very much, members. Are there any further clarity seeking questions? If none, I want to then invite, let me just check. Next on the agenda is the Public Works. If you are ready, the platform is yours. Minister, you will indicate who's going to do the presentation for us.
Honorable Chairperson, the next is the Heritage Council. We have done our presentation earlier this morning with co-chair Ms. Lango. Thank you.
Okay. I just received the briefing now. Okay, then let me invite Parliament. Madam Speaker, or you want to come last?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I don't know what we are expected to do at this point. We were requested to make introductory remarks. Following that, it was then Public Works, the police, and SAHRA. I don't know if there's any expectation from Parliament to present a report other than the report which has been presented by the Minister of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, with whom we work very closely and we consult. So that's where we are, Chair. In my understanding, the presentation is on the table, and I think we, with the team from PUCA, we will then be ready to take questions. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Let's then invite the Heritage Council.
Chair, I was asking if we can be released, if it's possible.
Yes, I forgot to acknowledge that, Deputy Minister. My humble apologies. Yes, your apology has been noted. You are free to leave the meeting. Thank you very much for your contribution and for spending time with us. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Including the team, if we are able to release the delegation from SAPS, that will be appreciated.
SAP delegation is officially released from the meeting, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can we then have the Heritage Council?
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair. We are South African Heritage Resources Agency, SARA Chairperson. To the Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Chairperson of NCOP, the Honorable Minister of DPWI, the Honorable Members of Parliament, all protocol observed. Chairperson, ours is to give a report on our role as SARA, and with me is Ms. Mama Komoreng Khasi Lisawana. She is the Heritage Resources Management Executive. Also, Ms. Regina Isaacs, our Heritage Objects Manager, and Mr. Ben Mwasinga, who is our Built Environment Manager, working very closely with the DPWI colleagues. Our presentation, Chairperson, through you will be done by Mr. Ben Mwasinga. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
I got cut. Am I audible?
You are, Chair.
Yes. What is happening, Cindy?
Mosinga is going to do the presentation. I think he's just trying to connect quickly. He's in.
Okay. That's the Heritage Resource Agency. Oh, okay. I thought it was the council. All right. Thanks.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, let me give my greetings to the Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Chair of the NCOP, Minister, Deputy Minister, and the Honorable members of the House, the generals of SAPS who have now recently left us, and our colleagues from DPWI. My name is Ben Mwasinga, and I'll be presenting on behalf of the South African Heritage Resources Agency. And before I begin, I think it's important to just note or to let the members of the committee know that SARA's mandate is essentially, we are a statutory organization established in terms of the National Heritage Resources Act, Act number 25 of 1999, as the national body responsible for the protection, coordination, and management of cultural heritage resources. And further to this, the National Heritage Resources Act replaced the National Monuments Act of 1969. And most importantly to note as well is that we are an agency of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. Now, the contents of today's presentation are going to focus on historical significance of Parliament in relation to this fire. We're also going to look at the damage this fire has had on the heritage value of South Africa, and the loss we have suffered as a nation as a result of this to our national estate. And most importantly, we're going to look at the applicable legislation and the role of SARA in terms of the restoration process. Ultimately, Parliament, as we will see in this presentation, is a site of great significance, and therefore there are a number of legislations and obligations that the state has to fulfill in terms of this restoration project. Now, Parliament, which includes Earth 95165, Earth 95164, and Style Plain, which you will find in an annexure which was sent to the members as part of this pack. Parliament was found in 2014 by SARA to be a site of great significance and with qualities so exceptional that it is of special national significance. And if you look at the Gazette, again, which was sent, it details what the significance is. But in terms of our assessment in 2014, we found that Parliament met 6 criteria that relate to our criteria for assessment in terms of national significance. And that is to state that Parliament has historical value for South Africa, aesthetic value, scientific value, social value, and is a site that is so unique and rare that even that in itself is a value, and also a site of great representation in terms of the diverse nation that we have. Apologies, colleagues, I've seen my presentation just went off. I'll be back in a second. Now, in terms of the historical value of Parliament, the historical value speaks to the development of the site in terms of South Africa's history, and also the level of diversity and richness that it has in terms of the story of the nation. So when we talk to Parliament, we are looking at its special association with events, development of the precinct, the cultural phases that it's played a role in the country, and of course, also ultimately the evolution of the nation, which can be found as features in the site. Further to this, the site has a strong and special association with the life work of people and groups, and the importance of the site is basically categorized by the buildings which are found there. So when we talk about the historical value, it can be seen through the National Council of Provinces, which was built in 1885, the Old Assembly Building, which was built in 1910, the National Assembly Building, built in 1985, the Marx Building from 1902, Africa House from 1937, Good Hope Building from 1854, Tynhuys and Style Plain from 1674, and Parliament Street, where all these buildings are present, which was basically constructed in 1885. So we're talking about a site of great historical value, a site that dates back to the 1600s. And of course, the buildings that have been damaged, the Old Assembly and the National Assembly Building, also having great significance and historical value. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through these. I understand they were sent to the honorable members. But in terms of the aesthetic value, we are obviously speaking to the unique features that make up the parliamentary precinct. When we're talking about the scientific value, we're talking about the inventories that are found in Parliament, the marquettes, the statues, the figures of important individuals from our history. We're talking about all the rare photographs, paintings, and sketches that are found in the libraries of Parliament. So ultimately, we're talking about a site that even the objects that are found within are of great significance as well. And then, of course, we talk to the social value. This is the legislative capital of the country. But beyond that, the events that have taken place there detail South Africa going from a state of colonization, apartheid, and ultimately constitutional democracy where we are now. And again, as stated earlier, it is a very rare site in the country, and the design and features are comparable to those of the Union buildings. And second to that is that in terms of representation, as a parliament of the people, it speaks to everyone in the nation. So in terms of Parliament's heritage status, the parliamentary precinct, including the buildings that were damaged by the fire, which is the old assembly and new assembly, is a grade 1 heritage resource, as well as a declared national heritage site, which means that it falls under the jurisdiction of SARA in terms of conservation and management. Now, Annexure A is the Gazette notice from 2014, which declares Parliament as a national heritage site. And this obviously has implications in terms of the restoration effort, but also the arson and the damage that has taken place. So SARA has a key role to play here, and we have been involved in this process with DPWI and Kucha, as well as the officers of Parliament since the arson events took place. But the greatest thing to note is that the loss of historical value is quite significant. The first thing to note is that our heritage resources are finite, and therefore the materials that have been destroyed here cannot and will not ever be able to be replaced. What we can do, of course, is with our best efforts, is to try to restore it to a state in which it was before, but maybe also where we can't restore, we will have to consult with the members of Parliament, as well as with the greater members of the public as to what should be replaced there. So when we're looking at the Houses of Parliament, ultimately the NCOP has a massive history starting from 1910 to 1994. There have been an extensive amount of transitions that have taken place, and the structural damage to the buildings is quite extensive. The entire roof of the old assembly has been destroyed, and the wooden beams that support the structure of the new assembly have been severely affected. And again, I must just reiterate that what has been damaged now cannot and will not be replaced, as these are historical items, and the materials that were used to construct these buildings at that time will not be found in this day and age. So with Parliament being a national heritage site, we must note that there is certain legislation that is applicable in terms of the restoration efforts. And this also brings in the role of SARA. We are governed by the National Heritage Resources Act, and Section 48 of this act states that any acts of alteration that are required for a formally protected site will require a permit. This can be found in Section 48 of the Act. And of course, as stated, with Parliament being a grade 1 heritage resource, as well as a national heritage site, they are formally protected. Therefore, permits will be required for any actions or alterations that take place even after the fact of the fire. Section 2718, which was alluded to earlier, an honorable member, Section 2718 states that no person may destroy, damage, deface, excavate, alter, remove from its original position, subdivide, or change the planning status of a national heritage site without obtaining a permit from the relevant Heritage Resources Authority. In the case of Parliament, that authority is SARA. And in terms of the question which was asked earlier, I will just maybe jump in here. The question was related to whether or not charges can be pressed in terms of the violations to the National Heritage Resources Act. Section 50 of this act does make provision for criminal procedures for anyone who violates this act. But further to this, SARA has submitted a statement to SAPS and the NPA as well, detailing the violations that have taken place as a result of this act of arson. And we will be advised by the NPA and SAPS if we are required to provide further information. Now, in terms of permit applications, they are all done online. And this is done on our South African Heritage Resource Information System, which we call SORIS. And you can find the link to SORIS attached here in this presentation as well. But I must also state that we have issued 3 permits to KUGA and DPWI since this act of arson took place. The first permit, which we issued on the 20th of April, was a permit to install a temporary roof structure in order to secure the space for further access and analysis. Secondly, we also provided a permit for the request to remove rubble from the site. So SARA is treating Parliament as a priority. We have had a number of meetings with the colleagues from DPWI in which we stated to them that any applications coming to us in terms of this particular project will be treated as priority permits. The permits we've issued thus far have been issued as emergency permits, and we will continue to engage with the colleagues from DPWI and also advise them in terms of what what legislation they need to follow, but also what procedures need to be followed in terms of the permitting process. The third permit, which we issued yesterday, was to install lighting at the Good Hope Center, which will be used as the space for the sitting of Parliament. And so again, any actions that need to be taken at Parliament, SARA is treating as a priority, and we will continue to do so moving forward as well. Recommendations, which have been met and fulfilled in some part by DPWI, is that a heritage consultant be appointed, but as they've reported today, they have in fact already appointed a heritage architect. And this is quite important because there's going to be an extensive amount of works that are going to take place on Parliament, and it will be best if they can be advised of the impacts of those proposed actions during the restoration process. And this individual as well will be able to make the necessary heritage applications to SARA. Further to this, we also do advise that a heritage assessment be conducted as soon as possible to determine which actions would be least impactful to the remaining historical fabric. As I've stated earlier, DPWI has already began looking at this. They have already got their indicators in terms of which areas may have to be demolished, which ones may still be conserved, which ones can be conserved moderately, and which ones will have to be demolished altogether. So we will continue to advise our colleagues from DPWI. Of course, Parliament is a site of great significance, and as much as this is a priority project, we must remain compliant in terms of the legislation. So SARA's door remains open to our colleagues, and we will continue to provide as much assistance as we can. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Members, without any waste of time, can we get hands? Clarity seeking questions, comments? Am I audible, members?
You are, Chairperson.
Well, I think the presentation has been accepted as an information sharing presentation that does not require any recommendations or actioning. We thank you very much, Sarah, for the presentation. I'm not sure, Cindy, if there's anything that is left.
Yes, Chairperson, we had minutes and a report left, but we don't have sufficient. We're not at quorum at the moment, so we won't be able to adopt those. But I am seeing Mr. Bratta's hand, so I don't know if that's for Sarah.
Okay. Okay, Tim, your hand is up. I'm noting you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just to the representative from SARA, the question I have is, so we all know what Parliament looks like at the moment. Is there any SARA guideline to ostensibly try and preserve the nature of the look of the building when it is rebuilt, when the National Assembly is rebuilt? Because obviously it's got a very specific style and design, and there are many parts of the building which will be able to be rehabilitated. So when the National Assembly is rebuilt, is there a SARA guideline that says that it must stay in that type of style, which has got gables, etc., just the way Parliament looks like at the moment? Or is that more an architectural design spec thing? SARA has no influence in that. Just that's one question. Thank you.
A very brilliant question. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you,
can
Chair.
we get a response to that?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the honourable member for the question. Yes, firstly, let me state that SARA has a guideline in terms of permitting processes for sites in the built environment, and that ultimately determines the process that must be followed. But in terms of Parliament specifically, Parliament has what is called a CMP, which is a conservation management plan, which determines what aesthetic look and basically what actions may or may not be taken at Parliament. So of course the fire has destroyed a significant portion of it, but this is why the permitting process becomes important, as well as the conservation management plan, because we do not want that during the restoration process, whatever can be salvaged is not salvaged. And furthermore, that there is such a deviation from the site as it looks now, that it begins to resemble something that was not declared. So in terms of the site being a declared National Heritage Site, that was declared in a particular state of conservation, we do have guidelines and we do have the conservation management plan that seeks to keep it within those parameters. But in terms of the final look of what will be there, in terms of what can't be salvaged, SARA cannot at this point make the determination. But when the designs are sent, I am very much certain that Parliament will be given the opportunity to comment on those designs, and SARA will also make sure that there is also input from the broader public. But at this point in time, there are guidelines, and there is a conservation management plan that keeps the designs within certain parameters. But at the same time, due to the extensive damage, whatever can't be salvaged, we will have to obviously receive new design proposals for that, and that may alter the look. But we will not permit the look or the feel of Parliament to be changed to such an extent that it is something completely new. Thank you, Chair.
So in a nutshell, we will try to preserve and bring Parliament to its original look. That's what you are saying. Okay, I think it will also be unfair for one to say that how much of what is left can be saved. I think it will also be an unfair question. I'm sure you haven't done that investigation. We'll leave it for another meeting. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, honorable members. I think we have now come to the end of our meeting. I want to thank the speaker, the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the Minister of Public Works, the Deputy Minister of Police, and the leadership from SARA for availing yourself this afternoon, this Friday afternoon. And a special thanks to you members for also being patient with us until such time that we finished. We are an hour. Oh, no, we started at 12:30. I think we are still within the applied time. Members, this is work in progress. Let us officially agree that we close the meeting and expect that questions that were not maybe adequately responded to, if members feel that way, that there are questions that were not adequately responded to, they can then pursue them in writing. Members, let's adjourn the meeting until further notice. Our meeting also, we must remember that it depends on the availability of progress. So if reports are there, that's when we can call the meetings. Thank you very much, honorable members. Good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you
The
very
meeting
much.
is officially adjourned. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you.
Press 2.